All right, for all of you aspiring barristers out there, listen up. We're about to do a deep dive into the rules of pleading under the UCPR. This is your playbook for mastering Chapter 6, and it's designed to give you a serious edge in your bar exam prep. So to really get a grip on this, we've got to understand the problem the UCPR was designed to solve. And you've got to love this quote from Justice Davies. He called the old system playing a very expensive game. The UCPR wasn't just a tweak, it was a revolution against that very game. Here's our game plan. We're going to walk through this logically. First, we'll look at why the game changed. Then we'll get into your drafting playbook. After that, we'll cover how you respond, no hiding allowed. Then damages. And finally, the consequences of getting it all wrong, when pleadings get struck out. Right, first up, what exactly was this game everyone was playing? And more importantly, how did Chapter 6 of the UCPR just completely change the rules for good? The core idea here is simple, but it was revolutionary. The UCPR basically said, enough with the tactical maneuvering. Pleadings are now a tool for efficient justice, not for strategic ambushes. Their job is to narrow the issues and get to the heart of the matter right from the start. And this new philosophy is laid out perfectly by Dabney J. Think about it. The modern purpose of pleadings isn't just one thing. It's a 5-part mission. They define the issues, make sure everyone knows the case they have to meet. They limit how wide disclosure has to be. They create a framework for evidence. And they tell the judge exactly what they need to decide. Okay, so that's the why. Now for the how. This is your playbook, your drafting Bible, and getting this right isn't just good practice, it's your absolute duty as counsel. Right, the first rule you need to commit to memory, burn it into your brain for the bar exam, is Rule 149. That's 149. It is the absolute foundation, the DNA of every single pleading you will ever write. Seriously, this one rule, Rule 149, dictates everything. The form, the content, the whole shebang. So let's break down what it actually demands of you. So Rule 149 gives you 5 golden rules. 1. Keep it brief, no fluff. 2. You have to state all material facts. But, and this is key, not the evidence you'll use to prove those facts. Big difference. 3. You can plead conclusions of law, but only if you've pleaded the facts to back them up. 4. No surprises. If something might catch the other side off guard, you have to state it specifically. And 5. Be crystal clear about what you're asking the court for. State all the relief you're claiming. All right, moving on. And I want you to pay close attention here, because what we're about to cover is probably the single biggest, most game-changing part of the UCPR pleading rules. You absolutely, 100%, have to know this for your exams. So if Rule 149 sets the stage, Rule 166 is the rule that officially ended that old tactical game we were talking about. So again, for the exams, get this number in your head. Rule 166. It completely rewrote the rulebook for defendants. You can't just sit back anymore. You have to get in there and engage with every single allegation. It means there's absolutely no place to hide. Let me show you exactly what that looks like in practice. Just look at the difference here. In the old days, you could just issue a blanket denial, say, put the plaintiff to proof, and just sit back. Not anymore. Under Rule 166, if you deny something, you have to explain why. If you make a non-admission, you have to show you've made reasonable inquiries. And here's the kicker. If you don't explain yourself properly, your silence is treated as an admission. The whole burden just got flipped on its head. And believe me, these rules have serious teeth. This isn't just a suggestion. Under Rule 166, like we said, an unexplained denial is an admission. Under Rule 165, if you plead a non-admission, you can't just show up at trial with evidence on that point, you're barred. And under Rule 167, if you fail to admit something you really should have, the court can hit you with a costs order. So you have to take this seriously. Okay, let's talk about money. Because when it comes to claiming damages, the UCPR demands precision. You can't just be vague. This all comes down to Rule 155. That's 155. Its entire purpose is to eliminate surprises about money. Gone are the days of a vague claim for damages. The other side has a right to know, in detail, what you're after and how you got to that number. And Rule 155 gets really specific, as you can see here. For general damages, for instance, it's not enough to just throw a number out there. You have to lay it all out. The nature of the loss, the circumstances that led to it, and crucially, the basis for your calculation. You have to show your work. And this all ties back to Rule 157. That's 157. You can think of it as the big overarching principle here. The whole point of particulars is to define the issues so nobody gets ambushed at trial. It's about fairness and transparency. Okay, so we've covered drafting and responding, but what happens when someone gets it, well, fundamentally wrong? What happens when a pleading is just a mess? This is where the court brings out the big guns, the strikeout application. And the power for this, the rule you're going to use when you're faced with a defective pleading, is Rule 171. That's 171. It's your mechanism to get a broken pleading thrown out. So let's say you want to bring a strikeout application under Rule 171. What are your grounds? What do you actually have to argue? Well, under Rule 171, you've got 5 main lines of attack. You can argue the pleading discloses no reasonable cause of action or defense, basically that it makes no legal sense. You can argue it's going to prejudice or delay a fair trial, or that it's unnecessary or scandalous, frivolous or vexatious, or, the catch-all, that it's just an abuse of the court's process. So when you step back and look at all of this, the shift in thinking is just massive. It's a total philosophical change. Pleadings are not a chessboard for you to play strategic games. They are a tool to help the court find the truth by defining the real issues in dispute. And that brings us to the most important question. It's a question you should ask yourself every single time you sit down to draft a pleading, not just for the bar exam, but for your entire career. Is this document I'm creating designed to clarify the dispute, or am I just playing the game?